Well, hello, my friend. It's me, Stu, here for you, and we are back. Today, we're going to be talking about how the heck do you launch a membership site in the most simple, easiest of ways so you can get it off the ground and get momentum. And I want to talk to you about how do you do this so that it doesn't take a lot of time, doesn't take a lot of energy, and we can get it going and build massive momentum. Well, the good news is that there 100% is a proven way. That's what I'm going to walk you through here, and I'm going to give you all the steps for it. With that said, one of the things that I want you to realize is that in the midst of launching a membership site, there are a few nuts and bolts, so to speak, that we want to make sure that we nail down ahead of time. So let's set the foundation before launching a membership. And I'm going to walk you through some of those foundational elements. And hello to everybody who is watching and listening. I appreciate you. Let's dive in. Okay, so let's talk about some of the foundational elements. There's three things that I want you zeroed in on, okay? Before you think about making an offer. And this could be regardless of whether it's a membership site, it could be a course, it could be any product or service. These foundational elements are really, really important. So number one, you must be clear on the market. Like, who is it that you are serving, right? So whenever I'm working with a entrepreneur, one of the things that I always ask is like, first and foremost, like, who are you serving? Who's your market, right? So you got to get clear on that. Now, the natural instinct is to think, well, I'm serving everybody. I'm helping everybody. Like that's what I'm doing. Wrong answer. You know, in my early career, that was the actual thing that I was trying to help all entrepreneurs with all things marketing. And it was slow and it was heavy. And it was like, fighting an uphill battle. The reality of it was that I didn't stand out. And the hard learned lesson here is that if you're trying to serve everybody, you end up serving nobody. So my advice to you is to really narrow down who that market is. I'll give you an example with me. So instead of serving all entrepreneurs, I specifically focused on helping those who want to add more recurring revenue into their business. Now, this wasn't my, epiphany. This came from a mentor of mine, Reed Tracy, who suggested that I focus in on this area because that's what my background had been for, years and years and years. I'd been helping tens of thousands of entrepreneurs, specifically with membership sites. And one day, we had a conversation and he said, Stu, why don't you just focus on like helping people specifically who want to add recurring revenue to their business? And my ego kicked in. My ego was like, nah, that's not all I do. But, Reed is infinitely more wise, has a heck of a lot more experience in business than I. So I was like, okay. So I leaned into that. And the amazing thing was, once I started doing that, things started happening. Things started happening so much faster. They were so much easier. I can't even begin to explain to you what happens when you get clear on the market, who you serve. And I see Tracy said, I'm scared I niched too small. Well, I think I wouldn't worrying about that because it's easier to expand your market out than it is to try to reach everybody and expand in. So Tracy, I'm always a fan of starting smaller in a more narrow market because the reality of it is in today's world, we're able to reach people, because of the internet. Before, I grew up in a small country town, and just the fact that I was trying to build a business online was unique and niched, right? Like, let alone, trying to serve other businesses who are, online. But the reality of it is now it's so much, we're able to reach so many more people than ever before that we can appeal to those who are in that niche market so much more effectively. And there's a sense of belonging when they find your community because it's perfectly tailored for them and their interests, okay? So first things from a foundational standpoint, you got to be clear on who you serve. Second thing is like you got to get clear on like what is the problem that the market is facing? What problem is the market facing? The reality of it is that when people are buying from us, they're buying because they want to solve some particular problem or they want to achieve something, some desire, right? Like some outcome. We're going to get to that here in just a minute. But the problem, it's really important that we get clear on it, because what we want to do is we want to contrast where they are, dealing or trying to navigate this problem, to where they want to be, which is the third component, the transformation. So we want to get clear on the market, the problem, and the transformation. Market, problem, transformation. And so the reason this is important is because when you're speaking about, what it is that you do, we want to create contrast between where somebody is dealing with this problem and where they could be experiencing this transformation, right? And that contrast creates the gap. And that gap is why people are going to buy from you. They're going to buy from you because they can close that gap faster and easier, right? Many times people think that people are joining a membership to get a bunch of information. No, that's a half truth. The full truth is, they're wanting to access information that's going to help them experience a transformation easier and faster and easier, right? So we got to get clear on what is that problem that they're experiencing and what is the transformation that they're wanting to experience, okay? So again, market, problem, transformation. These are the three fundamentals. And here's the deal, gang. It doesn't matter if I'm working with a brand new entrepreneur or I'm working with, an entrepreneur that's got a well-established business generating millions of dollars a year. Doesn't matter. Whenever I'm consulting, and I do this one time a month, I'm asking those fundamental questions. Who is it you serve? What problem are they experiencing? And what transformation do you provide? And I want it as clean and clear as possible, because the messaging matters. When you're launching anything, the more clear you can be in your messaging, the easier it is for people to understand what it is that you do. And once they understand what it is that you do, everything else that comes out of your mouth or in your copy or anything is going to land. But if they don't understand what it is that you do, their minds are spinning. They're spinning, trying to figure it out. And it doesn't matter how much you tell them, it's going in one ear and out the other, because they're not hearing it, because they're still trying to figure out, like, well, wait a minute, what does he do? What does she do? Right? So we got to get this foundation really clear. Who is it you serve? What problem are they experiencing? And what transformation do you help create? Okay? Now, once you've got clarity around that, going out and launching, whether it be a product or service or a membership site, can actually be one of the fastest and easiest things. And P.S., you don't need a huge audience to do this, right? Like, there are so many examples of people in our community who have launched not with tens of thousands of people or even thousands of people, but just with teeny tiny audiences of just a few hundred people. And here's the amazing part about this. When you keep it simple, you can literally do this very quickly, and you can create momentum for yourself that in and of itself is going to open up all kinds of doors. It's going to create more and more clarity. And most importantly, that momentum is going to give you a chance to work with real people so that you can create real stories of success and transformation, which are going to become your greatest marketing asset. So let me give you an example of this. What we're talking about here today is what we call our founding member launch. And one of the women in our community who has done this successfully time and time again, her name is Jamie Swanson. And Jamie was presenting at our Tribe live event, and she was on stage and she was talking about how she launched her photography membership site using what we're going to talk about here in just a minute. And she talked about how she had real sense of urgency to get this membership launched because she was expecting her sixth child. Yes, I mean, I bow down to her, 6 children. Craziness. But anyway, she was expecting her 6th child, and she wanted to get the membership launched before she had the baby. So she didn't have time to get it all set up all fancy dancy. She didn't have time to overthink it. She just did a founding member launch, and she kept it scrappy. And in that, she followed what we're going to talk about here and put it out there to the world, and ended up welcoming 119 members into her membership. So she was on stage and she was sharing this story, right? Now in the audience was another woman. Her name was Anna Saucier. And Anna, she didn't have a huge audience. She had 326 people in a Facebook. I think it was either on a Facebook page or in a Facebook group, but 326 people. She heard Jamie speaking about how she did this, and she was inspired. And she's like, you know what? I can do this. Like, I can do this like right now. So she's at the event. This was on the second day. It was a 3-day event. So she made it a goal. She said, I'm gonna launch like right now at this event. And my goal is to generate $5,000 while I'm here. Again, teeny tiny audience of 326 people. These are infertility practitioners. So long story short, she took like, the template that, Jamie spoke about, and we're going to talk about here in just a minute. And she went up to her room and she started like, writing it out, following what it is that we're going to talk about. And she made this post in her Facebook group, and she followed exactly what we're going to outline. And the crazy part is she started getting people who were responding to her in this community. And it was quite a funny story, actually, because Anna was there with her young baby at the event. And then the event wrapped up, and Anna was heading to the airport, and she's getting like all these messages about joining the membership as a founding member. And so she's trying to respond to them, and then she's got a baby in tow, and she's trying to get, to the airport. And, one of our fellow drivers was there, was helping her, get to the airport so she could respond to the messages. And, her phone was like dying out. Like, this was like crazy times. But here's the amazing part about this. Anna, in that first 24 hours, generated $5,024 in her founding member launch. And that created momentum for her, right? That created momentum. And I'm sharing all this with you because this has happened time and time again, whether it be with Tasha Cochran, who, she launched to a small targeted audience of hers. And she welcomed 30 founding members into her membership. And she worked with those founding members to really refine what the concept was going to be and how she would create and deliver the experience for the membership. And then once she had done that, which was about 2 months in, she then launched to her greater audience. And because she had that momentum, because she refined the concept with those founding members, and now she had stories that she could share, when she opened doors to her membership to the rest of her audience, it was a monster success. So I'm sharing this with you because this happens time and time and time again. In fact, last year, right around this time when we did our free membership workshop, which, by the way, is happening on April 22nd. So make sure you've marked down the dates, because on April 22nd, I'm going to be going live, and I'm going to be conducting a free workshop. We do this one time a year, so you may want to make sure you're there. It's April 22nd. Mark down the dates. But during this free workshop, we had all kinds of people who took what I'm about to share with you, put it into practice, and experienced all kinds of momentum, like right there during the free workshop. Like, I think of this young guy, Greg. It was the same deal. He didn't have a huge audience, didn't have tens of thousands, right? He went out to his small audience of a few hundred people following what we're talking about here. And he was just ecstatic, because not only did he get a response, but he generated thousands of dollars from this very methodology. Okay. Again, it all starts first. Know your market. Who is your market? Number 2, know the problem they're experiencing. Number 3, be clear on the transformation that you are going to create. So let's talk about now the steps to a founding member launch. So the concept here is that with a founding member launch, you're inviting people to join your membership before you've created it. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, and it kind of sounds backwards. Like, wait a minute, people are going to buy before like I've created anything? Yes, they are. And if you follow what I'm about to share, you'll understand why they're going to join. But the idea is that we're going to put out this concept of your membership and or your community. And we're going to be able to gauge interest, whether people A, are interested and committed to joining, B, if we're on the right track, and if we're not, then isn't it better to kind of discover that before you go and create a whole bunch of stuff, right? But if you are on track, now what's happened is that you've also generated momentum and cash flow to help you fund the creation of said membership, right? Okay, so let's walk through the steps of a founding member launch, and there are 5 of them. First step, when you are looking to do a founding member launch, the first thing that you want to do is you want to cast or you want to share where the idea came from. Okay, so you're going to make this a post, whether it be on a Facebook group, Facebook page, if you've got it. You might do it to your Instagram following. You might do it to your YouTube following, your blog following, your podcast, wherever right now you are communicating with your audience. And again, I'm not talking, you don't have to have a huge, audience of tens of thousands or thousands. Like a few hundred is all you need to be able to get started with this. But wherever you are, communicating with your audience, any of those platforms might even be an email list, right? Totally fine. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to make a post or an announcement. And first, you're going to talk about the idea. So years ago, when Nicholas Wilton, he was in the midst of delivering a course, and he called me in a bit of a panic. He had 2 weeks left before the course wrapped up. And he said to me, he said, Stu, people are asking, what's going to happen next at the end of the course? And I'm like, dude, that's a really good thing. He's like, yeah, I know. He's like, I know I should launch a membership, but I've only got 2 weeks before the end of the course. I don't have time to be able to do this. And I said, okay, well, let's do a founding member launch. And he's like, well, what's that? That's exactly what I'm talking to you about. And so in his case, he invited people to a webinar. So everybody that was going through the course, he invited them to the webinar. And he shared where the idea came from. And he explained to them, he said, look, he said, when we began this course together, I was just so focused and invested on, delivering a great experience for you during the course that I wasn't thinking about anything else. But in the last few weeks, I've started to get messages like this screenshot, like this screenshot, like this screenshot. And these were all screenshots of people who were asking, what happens next? How do we stay together? Is there a community that we can stay connected to? These were all the types of questions that he was getting. And he said, and once I started to get, 1, 2, 3 of those questions, I started thinking about what would it look like if we were to create a community where we could bring people who have an interest in X, Y, Z together, right? So he explained this to people on a webinar. You would explain this either in a Facebook post, an email, et cetera, et cetera. But the concept here is that we explain where the idea came from. And the idea may have come from, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it may have come from a conversation with somebody in your market. It may have come from seeing, questions like the ones we were talking about. Wherever the idea came from, you want to capture that and you want to talk about this is where the idea came from. And it's just an idea. This is really important that you explain it. Right now, it's just a raw idea. I don't have it all fleshed out. It's rough around the edges, but it's an idea, right? So you want to talk about where the idea came from. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is now you want to also then transition and cast the vision for what this idea might become. So you might say something like, no, right now it's just a seed of an idea, but moving forward, here's what I see this potentially becoming. And you want to talk about it becoming a community of people who share the same interests or the interest in the topic that you're going to be covering. You want to talk about what that transformation will look like. This morning, as an example, I was talking to one of the members on our team. His name's Will. He's a young guy who just got a Peloton this year. And, we were talking about, on the Peloton, the different outputs, right? And, I've been on the Peloton now for 2 years, and especially this whole of 2021, I've been super consistent on the Peloton. So my output is getting better and better and better. And so what I did was this morning, I sent him screenshots of where my output was when I began. And it was right around where he is right now. And I just showed him how consistently over the years, that output just kept going up and up and up. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because that's the transformation, right? That's the transformation that we're talking about. So I was casting the vision for him of what can happen when he stays consistent on the Peloton, right? And so it's the same thing here. You want to cast the vision of what this community will become and what that will make possible for people, right? By being part of this community. So number one is we want to talk about where the idea came from. Number two is we want to cast the vision of where this community might go. Number three is we want to invite people to join us as founding members for this community. Now, when you invite people, I don't know about you, but I get sometimes a little bit squirrely if I do like a public invitation and I say like, let me know in the comments if you think this is a good idea. And then nobody says anything. That's kind of embarrassing, right? So I've used this founding members launch strategy for launching courses, for masterminds, live events, memberships. I've used it in a whole variety of different ways, right? Even software products. But almost always when I invite people to join me as a founding member, almost in every single case, I will say something to the effect of, if you'd like to join me as a founding member, I want you to send me a direct message. Send me a direct message. But in the invitation itself, what you want to say is you want to say something to the effect of, look, I don't have all of this figured out yet. Right now, it's a really rough idea. In fact, the membership has not been created. It's something that we will be creating together, as part of as being a founding member. But one of the things that I am going to do is I'm going to extend to you a much lower price, a founding member price, for being a founding member of this membership, if we decide to move forward, if there's enough interest. And so when we launch it to the general public, we 100% will raise the price. But you, because you joined as a founding member, will forever be locked in at the lower founding member price. So even when people are paying more, you're still going to be paying the low founding member price for as long as you remain a member in good standing. Now, the other thing that I ask is that as a founding member, you give feedback, you speak into and help shape this idea of what this membership will become. Because as I said, right now it's a rough idea. It's rough around the edges, but together we can, with your feedback, we'll be able to turn this into an amazing experience that helps us get to transformation faster and easier, right? So you're inviting them to come join you as a founding member. And part of the things you want to include in there are, one, a founding member price. You want to make it clear that this is the lowest it will ever be and that they will forever be locked in at that low price for as long as they remain a member. So even when you raise it, their price is still going to stay the same at the low founding member price. And number two, you also want to speak to the fact that you would love their feedback early on because they're going to help shape the direction that this membership is going to take. Okay. So number one is you want to talk about where the idea came from. Number two, you want to cast a vision. Number three, you want to invite them to join you as a founding member. Number four is you want to have a call to action. So I kind of briefly mentioned this before, but the call to action is, if you want to join me as a founding member, send me a direct message and let me know. Then when they send you a direct message, you're going to send them the payment link. And again, we don't have to have like a big fancy sales page or webinar or anything of that nature. Like in Anna Saucier's case, like when she was at Tribe Live, she did this. Like she sent it out in a Facebook page post. And then she said, send me a direct message if you're interested. People sent her a direct message. She just sent them a straight PayPal link, like a straight up PayPal link. So they just went straight to the PayPal link and paid. And that was it, right? That was the beginning. This is the whole point of this. Like, it's super simple, right? So when the call to action must be clear, though, it must be clear in terms of like, what are the next steps you want them to take? And it should only be one next step, which is send me a direct message if you would like to join us as a founding member. So they send you a direct message. And then the fifth step is the follow-up. This is where you're going to send them the payment link and you're going to answer any questions that they may have. And if you're unsure about the questions that are coming through, I want you to be upfront and honest about that. Say, it's a great question. I don't have the answer to that yet, because as I mentioned before, like, it is really rough. It's a concept right now. It's an idea right now. And that's a huge reason why I'm extending the founding member launch pricing, because as a founding member, you're getting in at the ground floor. When we launch to the general public, after we've got a lot of the details all figured out, the price is going to be much higher. And that's part of the benefit of coming in as a founding member, is that, one, you're going to be locked in, and two, you're going to be able to help shape and refine a lot of those final details. So number one, you want to talk about where the idea came from. Number two, you want to cast the vision. Number three, you want to extend the invitation. Number four, you want to have a specific call to action. Number five is you want to follow up. The amazing part about this is that whether it works or doesn't work, it really doesn't matter. What matters about this whole process is it gives you the opportunity to be able to gauge interest well before you pour a ton of time, energy, and money into building any kind of membership. But the other side of this, which PS is a really important side of this, is that will you generate money when your members join? Yes, of course. That's a huge, piece of the puzzle. But it's also icing on the cake, in my opinion. Because at this stage, it's not about generating the revenue, although that happens, and that's a really good, side benefit. But the real magic and why we're doing this is that we want to work with real people. We want to work with real people like right now. And the reason is because when you do launch it, your most valuable marketing asset are the stories of people just like those in your audience that you're serving, that you've helped make progress toward the transformation that your audience is after. That's the real reason that we want to do this in the early go, because that's your most valuable marketing asset. But if you don't have real people to work with, well, guess what? You don't have those stories, right? So this is a magical way to be able to, obtain, so to speak, your most valuable marketing asset. And with your founding members, this is where you're going to roll up the sleeves, so to speak, and you're going to be very hands-on in terms of that experience, so that you can identify, okay, where are people getting stuck? What can you create to alleviate that stuckness, so to speak? What can you do to support them and help them? All of which is going to help make that membership experience so much more valuable. So that when you do launch to the general public, guess what? Now you've nailed not only your messaging, but now you have one of the most valuable marketing assets you could have, which are those stories, which is going to lead to greater and greater success with each and every launch. So when it comes to pricing your founding member launch, you can do it a whole variety of different ways. Some choose to, specifically with a membership, they'll do it on a monthly basis. So if they foresee themselves, and their membership being $25 a month, they might go out and launch with a $20 founding member price. This is actually what we did with, Michael Hyatt back in the day. I was business partners with Michael Hyatt when we launched Platform University, and we did our founding member launch at $20 a month. So we said anybody who joins during this first week, then they'll get into the membership at $20 a month. And then we immediately raised it to $25 a month. And then we went to $30 a month. And then we went to $37 a month. And then we went to $47 a month, right? So, but we started with $20 a month. And so anybody who joined during that first week, they got in at $20 a month, and they were forever locked in at that price of $20 a month, even though we kept raising it. So those members, they stuck around, they hung around, because nobody wants to give up a good deal, right? So it's a really powerful retention strategy as well. Now, the other side of it is that sometimes people will price it as they'll have a higher price point, but it'll be lifetime access for that price point. So this is what Anastasia did. So she didn't have a huge audience, as I said, 326 people. But instead, she sold lifetime access for a higher dollar amount. So instead of doing a low monthly dollar amount, she was looking to generate cash up front so that she could use that to then invest in creating the membership and so forth. So in her case, she, the highest priority was she needed to generate some revenue up front to be able to pay for somebody to help build the membership. So she sold it as a lifetime access. And I think her price point was like $300 and something. I can't remember offhand. But it was a higher price point. So instead of monthly, she sold lifetime access for a higher price point, but she sold a limited number of those, right? So this is the other key thing. You don't have to, if you choose the low monthly, then you may not want to put any cap in terms of the number of people. If you are selling lifetime, maybe you want to put a cap on it. So it's limited to 30 people, so to speak, who could join as a founding member. Then you close it and you work with those members and you create the membership and you refine that experience. Then you launch it to the general public thereafter. So hopefully this has given you some ideas in terms of how to get going with this. If you want to follow up and get more details and hear it from another angle, I encourage you to go listen to episode number 171 of the Marketing Your Business podcast. This is the podcast that we release every week. Go and listen to episode number 171, and you'll hear me talk about it again. There's a variety of different examples that I share in that one as well. But bottom line is that with a founding member launch, it boils down to 5 key steps. Number 1 is you want to share where the idea came from. And you're going to share this in either a Facebook post, Facebook group. It might be on Instagram, might be a YouTube channel, might be on your podcast, might be on a blog. It might be just through email. But you're going to share where the idea came from. Number 2, in that same post, you're going to cast a vision for where this might go and what it might become, and the transformation that it's going to make possible by being in this community together. Number 3 is you're going to invite people to join you as a founding member, right? You're going to extend an invitation. And part of that invitation is, listen, when you join as a founding member, you're going to get the absolute lowest price this will ever be, and you'll be locked in at that low price for as long as you remain a member in good standing. So when we raise the price, your price will continue to stay the lowest price. Step number 4 is that you want to give them a specific call to action. You want to tell them, send me a direct message. Send me a direct message. And when they send you a direct message, then you follow up, right? Then you follow up and you give them a payment link. And again, you don't need like some fancy sales page or webinar or anything of that nature. Keep it super simple and just send them a payment link to some checkout page. Then, if need be, the 5th and final step is you follow up. If they've got questions, you want to answer them and be upfront and transparent about it. Like if you don't know the answers, then just be upfront and say that. Say, look, right now, as I said, like this idea hasn't created yet. Like it's right now, it's just a concept. It's just a concept. It's just an idea. So I don't have all the answers, but that's a great one. I'm going to mark it down. And as I get more clarity, I'll certainly follow back up with you. But you always want to bring it back to like, this is part of being a founding member, is that they're getting in at the ground floor, right? They're the ones that are going to help shape the direction that you take with the membership. I know in Tasha Cochran's case, like, she was thinking about going in terms of the deliverables inside of her membership in one way, but her members were actually giving her feedback that ultimately, kind of changed the direction that she went with the content and the deliverables in the membership. When we spoke to her, she was so grateful for her founding members because they really helped shape like the direction that she went in. And had she gone in the direction that she was initially thinking, it might not have been the success that it was because of the feedback that she got from her early founding members. So I'm sharing this with you because I know that in hearing this, you might be thinking, there's got to be more to it. Like there's got to be more to it. And you might start like getting in your head, overthinking, right? And overanalyzing the process. And that might be the thing that could prevent you from moving forward with this. But I'm here to tell you that you can do this. And in our community, in our tribe community, we see this all the time, People doing their founding member launches and initially welcoming 5 members, 10 members, 20 members, 30 members. And that's the beginning, right? That's the beginning. Because those 5, 10, 20, 30 members, that's what's going to lead to hundreds of members. And then hundreds of members is going to lead to thousands of members. So I don't know what market is that you're serving. I don't know what your audience size is or anything of that nature. But what I do know is that this process, it works. And it works time and time again. And the thing that I love about it is that it gives you and I a chance to validate our ideas, right? To kind of test the waters, to gauge the market interest before we spend a whole lot of time, energy, and money in creating something before we even know if people are going to be interested. I would much rather keep it streamlined and simple and validate the idea now so that I know whether I'm spot on in terms of my messaging or I'm spot on in terms of the idea. Because if not, then I need to rework those things, right? Before spending a whole bunch of time, energy on a product or membership or what have you that may not fly. So I'd rather do that like before I, invest all that time, energy, and money. And this is why I love this process. It is an amazing way to validate whether your idea is something that the market wants. That's number one. Number two, it's an amazing way to generate momentum, right? Like it's an amazing way to generate momentum for you with your audience, generate momentum in terms of cash flow, right? And also generate momentum in terms of moving this idea forward. Because one of the things that I see happen time and time again is people who have just been sitting on an idea and they just keep sitting on it and sitting on it and sitting on it. And they're waiting for the perfect time. Let me tell you, there's no perfect time. There's no perfect time. In fact, the best time to launch is sooner rather than later. Because the sooner that you can work with real people, the sooner you get that feedback, the sooner you see where they're getting stuck, the sooner you can create an experience that's going to help move them forward. That's more valuable than waiting and waiting and waiting, thinking and hoping that you're going to have the perfect experience right from the get-go. Because I can tell you, with decades of helping tens of thousands of business owners create membership sites, there's no perfect membership right out of the box. Never, ever, 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 ever. Like, I guarantee you're going to make changes. You're 100% going to make changes because you're going to see when an idea or deliverable that you thought was going to be a home run, you're going to get inside your membership and you're going to see that people aren't even using that. Let me give you a real world example. So Paul Evans owns a membership site called Teen Life Ministries. And he helps youth ministers reach their youth in the church every single week. Now, he had a membership site, and in that membership site, he had a whole bunch of deliverables that he was providing inside of there, right? He had like a community, he had lessons that he was giving, he had all these different things that he was providing inside this membership. But one day he sent out a survey to his members, and he said, if we were to get rid of everything inside the membership, what's the one thing that you would want me to keep? He said, if we were to get rid of everything inside the membership, what is the one thing that you would want me to keep? Well, the feedback that he got was overwhelmingly in favor of one particular deliverable. You know what that was? Inside of his membership every week, he would provide a PowerPoint template. And the template would give these youth ministers essentially a basic presentation.
Sorry, I've been waiting with you. Talking a little
Oh, say hello to my wife, everybody. So he would give this one deliverable, which was this PowerPoint presentation that the youth minister could basically make a couple changes to, and then bada bing, bada boom, they're off to the races. They have like their presentation, their sermon for the week. And the overwhelming majority of people said, please, please, please. That's the one thing that I want you to keep. That one thing that I want you to keep. And so guess what he did? He got rid of pretty much everything else inside the membership, and he just kept that one thing. And that streamlined his deliverables. It made the experience so much better. He didn't have to, in his case, the members didn't want any of the other stuff. They just wanted that one thing. So we may think we know what the market wants, but until you start working with people, you're never really going to find out. And this is why I'm here to tell you, like, there's never, ever, ever a perfect membership right out of the gate, right? So the sooner that you can start working with people, the sooner you can begin creating that perfect experience. But you'll never know until you start working with people. So I am a huge, huge fan of getting started earlier rather than later. And the fastest way to do it is with this, the founding member launch. You start with an idea, you cast a vision, you invite them to join you as a founding member. You give them a specific call to action, which is send me a direct message. Then you follow up and give them the payment link. This, my friend, is it. This is how you get started. And from that point forward, the key component is staying in contact with your members to continuously keep them informed of how things are moving along and what is happening. So most times people will create a Facebook group initially, right? So this can all be started with a Facebook group and email. And then as you move forward, you keep them posted on the membership that you are creating or the members area. You keep them posted on the timeline for that. So in the story of Nicholas Wilton that I shared earlier, what he did was he, shared where the idea came from. He cast the vision of what this community would look like. He invited them to join him as a founding member. He gave them a way to go and pay. And then the follow-up was that he, stayed in touch with them and he communicated like that the membership was going to be 2 months away. And in that, all along the way, he was sharing them screenshots of like how the members area was coming. He was getting feedback from them. Hey, what do you guys think about this? Like, should we set it up? Should we have something like this? Or, do you have any other ideas? And so he was getting feedback and he was showing them like how that was helping shape the idea that was ultimately becoming the membership. But he kept them informed. He kept communicating with them, which is the most important piece of the puzzle. So when you invite people to join you as founding members, and they do, now we've got to stay in touch with them. And the staying in touch with them is just communicating what's happening and managing expectations in terms of where it's going and how it's moving forward. I'll give you one other example of this, of why it's so important. My wife and I are in the midst of, renovating our home. And the builder that we're working with is phenomenal. And the reason that he is phenomenal, a huge part of it, is because he is keeping us informed of every step along the way. Like, he's keeping us informed of not only the timeline of, when things are expected to get done, but he's keeping us informed of like all the micro steps in between, like when we were applying for permits and why there was a delay because of COVID and what that's going to mean in terms of this and when we got it and what's going to happen now and how, the team is in the house and they're knocking walls down and, renovating and all that stuff. And he's sending us pictures all along the way and keeping us informed of the process. When people don't know what's going on, that's where the uncertainty starts to kick in. That's where like the buyer's remorse kicks in. But as long as you are communicating with people, then, oh my gosh, it's a journey that they're on and they're thrilled to be a part of it. And I can't tell you how many thousands and thousands of membership sites in our community have been launched using this very method, the founding member launch. Start with the idea. Communicate where it came from. Cast the vision of where this community is going and what it is going to make possible for people. Invite people to join as a founding member. Give them a specific call to action, which in most cases, it's send me a direct message. Then follow up and give them the payment link where they can join you as a founding member, and then stay in contact with them as you begin putting the pieces in place. I'm telling you, gang, so many benefits because this gets you out of your own way and it gets you in motion. It creates momentum, and that momentum is going to be more powerful in helping you build a successful membership than anything else. My friends, I want you to keep me posted. Let me know what happens if and when you move forward with your founding member launch. I want to hear about it. We want to hear about it. And of course, if you haven't done so yet, I highly recommend you go and get our free guide. You can see it here, gettribeguide.com. This is where I answer the top 10 questions that I get asked day in, day out about creating a membership site. And not only do I answer them, but we also give a whole bunch of examples of real world memberships. So it'll get the creative juices flowing for you. And if you haven't heard about this yet, this week in particular, I want you to go to makingamembership.com, and I want you to watch the stories of people from within our community. Every year we host a contest. It's called the Tribe for Life contest. And we host a contest, and we've narrowed down, like, we got tons and tons of stories from people in our community. Our teams narrowed them down to the top 15 stories. And these are stories of people who started with no audience, no list, and have created all kinds of momentum for themselves with their membership. Some are stories of people who had an audience and then they launched their membership and have experienced, what recurring revenue makes possible. Others had existing memberships, but we're stalling in terms of their growth. And all of a sudden in this past year, by applying some of the things that they've learned in Tribe, skyrocketed the growth of that membership. You're going to hear from people in all kinds of different markets, from art to crafts to parenting to health and wellness to weight loss to, even there's an artist on there who used to go and play, concerts. And you'll hear from him in terms of what he did this past year. Like, it's pretty incredible, these stories. And I want you to go and watch the stories, number one. But number two, I want you to cast your vote, because now our team narrowed it down to the top 15. Now we're putting it over to you to cast who you think should win the Tribe for Life contest. But most importantly, when you watch these videos, I think what's going to happen is you're going to see what's possible. And that, for me, is more important than anything else. Just like what we covered here today with the Founding Member Launch, I just want you to see what's possible when you get out of your own way and you get into motion and you start making things happen. So go visit makingamembership.com. You'll see all the finalists for the Tribe for Life contest. Watch the videos, cast your vote, and then I look forward to hearing your story as you put what we've learned and discussed here today into practice. You're amazing. You're awesome. Make it a great week. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.